Today we're going to talk about the lies of the don'ts. How the don'ts, or playing the don'ts, is not playing with the casino as most people want to think. And we're going to break it down into three very basic categories. The first category is just straight up betting the don't pass. Okay, so those of you who like to just bet the don't pass, sit there and wait to get paid, we're gonna tackle that one. Then we're gonna tackle the don'ts with full lay. So if you're someone who actively plays the don'ts and you go through the don't come and then you take odds and this type of thing. And the third thing that we are going to confront are those of you who are don't players who do direct lays or hedges against certain systems, because a lot of people like to use the don'ts in conjunction with some type of pass line or place bet system, right? So they like to play both sides of the table. First, I want to talk about, we previously did a video on the lies of the pass line. And now you're going to say, well, David, if you're doing the lies of the don'ts, what do I play on a crap table? Well, that's just it. The idea is to deconstruct the parts of the game that I know offer the smallest opportunity. We want you to focus on the areas of a crap table that offer the most opportunity and get away from the head games of the math. The math being either the house edge or the theoretical, okay? Now, before I get into the lies of the don'ts, I want to explain the difference between the house edge and the theoretical very basically, because we've gotten a few emails and people have kind of reached out to us, and sometimes you'll see David refer to those things kind of in the same breath, okay? So the house edge is the math associated with a bet of what the casino expects to win based on every dollar that you spend. So if the house edge on a game is 10%, the house can realistically expect to win 10% or 10 cents of every dollar. The theoretical is a very similar number, but it's the number the casino uses to assign a value to you as a player. So assuming that you're a $500 player playing a $25 game over 2 hours with such an ideal scenario, how much can the casino expect to win from you? Now, very often, that theoretical is similar. So if you're an educated player, it's very similar to what the math is on the game. Now, as a player, if you suck and you don't come with the tools and information, your theoretical may be much higher. I know people that play roulette that are, let's just say, on the crazier side and tend to play high-risk systems, and so the theoretical attached to that player may be higher. Okay, let's get down to it. So like I said, we're going to break this down into three basic areas. The very first area we're going to attack is the flat bet on the don't pass. And when we say flat bet, that is your first starting bet. Now, here's the thing. Let's compare the pass line to the don't pass. And as you know, we had a video, one of our best videos, by the way, where we talked about the lies of the pass line. Now, we're going to go ahead and assume this is what they call a 3, 4, 5 times table. So here in Vegas, a lot of those. And that means 3 times odds, 4 times odds, 5 times odds. Okay, so there's a lot of 3, 4, 5 tables. Back in the day, that was kind of just all double odds tables. So we're going to make that's the first assumption, and we're going to play out all our numbers and kind of the discussion based on that. Okay, so this bet right here and this bet right here are between 0.05% house edge. So the pass line is a 1.41 house edge for the casino. The don't pass is a 1.36% house edge for the casino. So very close. And by the way, those are great numbers, mathematically speaking. That's a fantastic house edge. Are you kidding me? So for every dollar that you spend, the casino expects to win less than 2 cents of your money, technically speaking, assuming you know how to play the game. So if you just step up to the table and bet the pass on the don't pass, that's fantastic. And now let's confront that very quickly, okay, why I consider it to be a lie, all right? So first of all, when people say they're betting with the casino, that's really not true. Both of these bets are the same thing, right? When on the come-out roll, pass line's a better place to be. Don't pass is the worst place to be. Once we have a point, pass line's a worst place to be. Don't pass is a better place to be. Okay, so based on the point, obviously, if you're on the don't pass, you have a higher opportunity to win. Here's the problem, and very simply when it comes to the lie of dice. If you sit here and all you do is bet this flat bet, you simply aren't going to win a lot of money. It's just a fact. Unless by some miracle the game gets completely cold, let's say, and you're betting the don't pass the whole time. But again, you're not going to bet a lot of money because all you're putting at risk is this one chip. Okay, depending upon, you know, what your buy-in is and how much you're betting there. Maybe if you parlay it and there might be a small little bit of opportunity, but over the course of your casino career, right, as a player, there's just not a lot of opportunity to win, and that's the first big lie of playing casino games. If you focus on the math, okay, if you focus on the math, there's not a win associated with it. Yes, I can grind out a little bit of money. That's fantastic. But over the course of my time playing these games, regardless of what game it is, these games should and will beat you. It's as simple as that. The only way that you can take advantage of a table or of a casino table is to understand the rules of the game and play a system or strategy, whether it's, you know, leveraging your bets, leaning into the wins, taking advantage of the roll, whatever the case is, to accelerate the wins and take advantage of the streaks, okay, so that you can win more money to overcome all of those days that you might lose. So over time, you have these big wins that make up for these losses over time, you see? And in my career as a dealer, it's simply not a thing where someone sits here. The math is great, don't get me wrong. You can hang out at a table, and if that's your goal, where you're just sort of killing time, why have the scorn of the table? You know what I mean? Just bet the pass line. Just sit there. It's basically the same bet. Either one of those, casino doesn't care. Casino loves that you're gaming, but there's no opportunity to win, right? Winning is the part of it that we try to focus on, right? Helping you to actually win money. This next part is going to be really eye-opening, I think, for some people, right? So assuming we have a pass line player and we have a don't pass player, here's a really interesting thing if you break down the odds. Regardless of what the point is, right? If you take max odds, so if we have a 3-4-5 game, we came out in a point of 9, okay, you could take up to 100 odds on $25 on a pass line. Remember we said it's 3 times, 4 times, 5 times your flat bet. We're playing a 3-4-5 game. So that means on the 9, you can take, if you have 1 green, you could take 4 green for odds. Now what those odds pay, it's 150. So just know that if you're on a 3-4-5 table, you can take 6 times whatever you have flat bet or your starting bet on the don't. So in this case, 150. Now here's where it changes. Most people think they're betting with the casino win on the don't pass, but here's a really interesting, eye-opening number. If you take maximum odds on the pass line, the house edge is reduced to 0.37. 0.37, can you imagine that? So on this bet, with max odds, the house edge is reduced to 0.37 if you take max odds. Even higher if you have a 10 times casino, and a lot higher if you have 100 times odds and you're someone that can afford to do that. The don't pass, however, if you take a full lay, right, so here it is, this 150 to win 100, the house edge is 0.46. Can you imagine? 0.46. Less. You see what I'm saying? It's better to be on the pass line with full odds if you're going to take a pass line with the full odds than to be on the don't pass, and you can look it up. That's the math, okay? Now, let's talk about why this is a lie. This is a lie very simply. If you'll notice, by taking full odds, we're taking advantage of, you know, trying to get a 9, right? Here we are, if we're on the pass line, we have a flat bet with odds, and it's going to pay us more money, right? This $100 is going to get us $150. Now, if we're betting against the 9, we have to bet more to win less. And what ends up happening is someone just shoots a few numbers, okay? Maybe not even a lot of pass line numbers, but gets lucky a few back-to-backs or coming out rolls, whatever the case is. And now you've lost more checks to win less checks. And those of us that have been dealers for a long period of time, and those of you that play the don'ts or just flat bet and pay lay, you know exactly what I'm talking about. One person rolls this very short roll, just a couple points, and now you are set back and trying to make up, you know, this difference very quickly because you have to bet more to win less, okay? So regardless of the math itself, the dynamics of the game, the way the game moves, this curve of the dice, you can watch where a player on the don'ts and the pass line both win and lose at the same rate. It's crazy how well this game is middled by the casino. And when I say that this is a lie, it's a lie because there's just not a lot of opportunity to win on the don'ts, right? Me personally, I have played the don'ts for hours on end, slowly grinding out my wins, and then all of a sudden someone steps up and rolls for just 10 minutes and has set me back for my hours of play, right? And if you play on the don'ts, that's exactly what happens, because the game is about numbers. It's always about numbers. Every single dealer, supervisor, everyone, they'll tell you it's about numbers. So if it's about numbers and you happen to be on the don'ts, guess what? You suffer that reality. More numbers, the worse it is. It's as simple as that. I know a lot of you are attending the math. Listen, the math is not for you, you see? The math is for the casino. They own all the math. If you're worried about the math, you can't come to Vegas. You just got to come here and buy a baked potato and call it a day. $95 baked potato, though. Just make sure you go to Poppy's and get all the garnishings. $95 baked potato. Okay, now we're going to talk about direct lays. And amazingly, the math is actually pretty good for the direct lays, okay? So, and it doesn't matter if you pay the vig up front or you pay the vig after the fact, because the probability of you winning stays the same, right? And even if you do pay up front, you pay that vig up front, right? So let's say, for example, let's say you go ahead and you give the dealer $40 and you say, I want a no 10. It goes behind the 10, okay? The dealer will take out a lay button, and some casinos will charge you $1 up front. Others will take it out of the payout. But it doesn't change the reality of, or the probability of, a 7 coming before the 10, okay? So if you look this up, you'll find that the odds remain the same, all right? Now, let's talk about why this is a lie. And the best way I can show you this is to show when it doesn't work, okay? So for example, the house tells you, the house will tell you, or the house will tell you, the house edge says, and the math says, this is a really fantastic bet, because the probability of winning is high because there are 6 ways of the 7. And remember, there's lots of other numbers. There's only 3 ways of the 10 out of 36 ways of the dice. That's a pretty good place to be. The real problem is the way the game moves, okay? Literally the curve of the rolls. You have to bet twice as much to win half as much. You follow? So you have to win 2 times to make up for the 1 bet. Actually more than 2 times, because you got to pay the vig. So if you're only making 20, right, you have to win twice just to compensate for this $40 bet. And if you lose it, now you have to win 2 more times just to get the bet back, and a 3rd time to recover the win. I'm going to show you what the heartbreak of a player that I've had on my table a couple times. It took him twice to get whacked so badly that he never came back to the casino. So this was someone who did direct lays on the 4 and 10. He would find a table that he thought was cold, he would belly up to the game, and he would come in over $10,000, okay? And very quickly, he would start out with a no 4-10 for $50, and he'd pay the $1. This is, I was working to Rio at the time, he would pay the $1, and this is $50 to win a quarter. Very simple bet. A really good bet from the standpoint of the odds themselves, right? It's a very good bet to have as far as the probability of winning the bet. Now, but here's the problem. When this bet loses, right? And I know you guys have been around a table where someone's rolled 4 10s in a row. In fact, just the other day, we had a couple in here. They rolled 5 4s in a row. 5 4s in a row. That'll hurt. Now, here's what happens. You lose this $50. I'm going to put this money out here. So at 10 rolls, let's assume 1 10 rolls. Okay, not a big deal. You're out $50. Okay, you've tried to win a quarter. Now what you have to do is first you have to bet $100 to recover the 50, but you have to bet another $50, okay, in order to chase that $25 win, right? You don't want to just recover your bet. You're trying to win some money. The whole idea of martingale is to keep doubling up to win that $5 or $10, whatever that starting bet is, right? So here's what he would do then. Okay, so now he's going to bet $150, and he would have to pay the vig. So this bet's going to win $75, which will cover the $50 and the $25 win. And we would charge him $3 or $4 depending. Okay, so let's say you're charging $4. But for our purposes, let's forget about the vigorish. Let's forget about the commission. Let's pretend we're a commission-free casino, which by the way, probably never going to happen. But commission-free casino, just for the sake of showing you the math, nice and easy. Now, if another 10 rolls, so this is 10 number 1. This is 10 number 2. That's it, just the second 10. He's going to lose the 150, and now, look at this. He has to bet $300 to cover the 150, another $100 to cover the $50, and another $50 to try to win the quarter. So the very next bet is $450. Now watch this. In just two tens, he's in 450, 150, $650, just like that. Poof. Okay, watch this. It gets really nasty really quick. Okay, 450, right? Now, if he gets another 10, a third 10 rolls, okay, then he's going to lose this 450. And I'm just going to show you the next one, but the heartbreak that you can't even imagine. So it ended up where he could only win 5,000, right? So at the Rio at the time, you could lay 10,000 to win 5,000, and that was it, and you were sort of maxed out. So he couldn't go any further, and his whole bankroll was gone, and he was just chasing. And the very last bet he made was in the field, but watch this. He's lost 450. So now he needs to bet 900 to win the 450, not including the VIG, by the way, which is getting really expensive at this point. So he's got to bet $900 to win the 450 to cover this bet. He's got to bet another $300 to recover the 150. He's got to bet $100 to cover the 50, and now he's got to bet another 50 because he's still trying to win $25. Okay, $25. So let's look at this. This is 1,300. Okay. So now the new bet is $1,350, but check this out. He's in 650 and 1,350. He's in $2,000 in just 4 tens chasing a $25 win. You see? This only has to happen one time for all those $25 wins that he's been collecting on the table for it to just go poof. And let me tell you, he was a regular, come up from California, and he would come to the casino quite often, and he would win $200-300, walk away from the game, and go home. He was a very disciplined guy. And he would build up this bankroll and come. And by the way, this happened twice to this individual, twice. It was a younger man. I don't know where he got all his money, but God bless him. But younger man, and this happened twice. Now, he lost this one. Yeah. So this is where he lost 2 more times. And there was a point where he would have needed to bet 13,000 something, whatever the case was, and they wouldn't let him. That's it. The rules are, that's why casinos have limits, so that you can't start from these silly bets and chase up into infinity, or everybody would win. If you had enough money, you couldn't lose, right? Because you could just go forever. Okay. So there's a point where you lose, and that's the problem with these types of direct lays. It's not so much you grinding out small wins. That's great. But the minute it goes on tilt and someone comes up and rolls 4 or 5 tens, now that money that you lose compounds itself so quickly as to devastate all that time you spent hedging these or accumulating these little wins. Okay. Now, my last thing I'm going to show you is the hedge. Okay. And I had a guy who I recently did a appointment with. And I want to show you, so I'm not pointing this out to kind of demean or undermine anyone's, interest in the game, okay? So like, I want you to have fun playing craps. It's not my job. It's my job to inform and empower based on my experience and my career dealing dice, right? And I know many of you use hedges, with pass line or place bet systems, and I'm going to show you why you shouldn't, but if you do it, you know what I mean? That's on you. And if you're having fun and you have money to burn, that's the thing. Okay. So here's what he does. Are you ready? Okay. He's going to bet $110 on the inside. So there's $110. Now, what I'm going to do is, you should see how this plays out. It's got $110. Now, he's got a $250 no 4, and he'll pick the no 4, no 10. Now, what he'll do sometimes is wait. He doesn't care about the come out rolls or the 7s or anything else. What he'll do is he'll wait for a 4 to be rolled, okay, or a 10 to be rolled, and then he'll jump on the game. You follow? So he assumes that it's less likely for a 4 to come the next roll, which, by the way, that's a misnomer. You know what I mean? That's a fallacy, because the 4 could come 5 more times. That could be the start of the 4 engine. You don't know. You know what I'm saying? There's the same probability of anything to roll the next roll of the dice. It doesn't matter what came before it. You see what I mean? But that's gambler's fallacy. You want to lean into that and say, okay, here comes the 4, and now it's unlikely that the 4. That's not true. It's just as likely for a 4 than any other. Everything has the same probability. Every roll is a new roll, okay? So he bets this, no 4. Now, you notice that this will win $125, okay? So he's going to pay $6 vig for this bet. So it's $6 because most casinos, they'll charge you. So you're in $6. Now you have this 250. So let's put this 250. Here's a 250. You're in $6, okay? He's going to win 125. He only has 110 here. So the other 15, right, he's going to put on the hard 4, okay? So if the hard 4 comes, he's going to win 105 minus, so 105 would be 120 and down, basically. 105, 120 and down, okay? Which, as you can see, if the hard 4 comes, all he's doing really is hedging this. He's not winning enough money to make this bet back, but he now has this $15 hard 4, okay? But he has 110, and this $15 is 125, and if a 4 comes, or if a 7 comes, right, he's going to get 125 minus the $6, all right? Which, on the surface, you'd be like, well, that's not the worst thing, David. He's only going to lose the $6, his vig, then he's going to reset the bet and come back. That's not the problem, okay? The problem is, if a hard 4 comes, that's not nearly enough to recover the lay on the 4. And if another 4 should come, this is the big problem. So if an easy 4 comes, which, there's still 2 ways of that, you lose this $250, then you lose this hard 4, so you're out $265, right? So here is $265 plus the $6, because we can't forget, so it's $271 you have lost. And now what do you have to make a recovery? Nothing. This is $110. These bets pay $35. The issue is not the 7, it's the 4. You understand? You've switched how the game works. It's the 4. Now you're in the same position you started with in the first place. You need numbers, right? Why are you betting this? There's no recovery, you see? Do you realize how many numbers that you're now going to need to recover, even if you power press or use one of our systems? That's a lot of money to be negative, right? Now, here's what you're going to say, but the table's cold and choppy. Listen, there's no such thing. I know that people interact differently with the table based on how they feel the table is. I completely understand that, right? So if you see it going back and forth, maybe you bet some system where you sort of hang out a little bit, but there's at any time someone is capable of shooting the dice. Literally at any time it can happen, and you just don't know. You don't know, you just don't know, right? But playing this way is silly. Because even if you grind out little $35 wins, you need so many of those to cover this bet, you see? There's no world where a person playing this way gets so far ahead of the game that they make up for the loss on the 4. Now, there are a lot of you that have played this way. You hedge your bets, and you walk away a couple $100 at winning. And that's great. But over time, that 4 is coming, you see? And it might come a lot. And there's that one day where you're going to suffer greatly, right? So this is the next big lie. And if anything, let's say you're saying, well, David, listen, I just leave that 4 there until I start winning, but that's also a better way to go about it, right? So once you start winning on place bets, you take down the hedge. In fact, we have a system for that called the 1 back in the day that did fairly well. The problem with it is you're restricting how much money you can win, and then you're putting all this money at jeopardy that can take away from whatever profit you'll realize from a hand and from numbers. The craps games, people win when someone rolls numbers. And when those numbers or that win is not mitigated by a hedge. It's as simple as that. The end game, the conclusion I have for you, it's very simple. The pass line and the don't pass are the lies of the working math. Yes, the math is true. I understand that. Casino owns the math. You own the opportunity. You own the opportunity of someone walking up to a game, rolling the dice, right? Holding the dice and rolling numbers. And if you have a system in place and you have the mentality, the discipline, the money management, the strategy, the bankroll, all those things covered, that's how you win a lot of money. That's how you win a lot of money, and you make up for the losses, the small wins, the breaking even, this kind of thing. So here I want to share a really brief story with you, okay? And I want to share like how we have sort of changed the game a little bit. and where, you know, the reality, you know, what it is to be a human, interact with the table, and what it is to be, you know, the casino trying to take, you know, your money from you, right? So we have the Bridge Workshop. And over the course of the last literally 5 or 6 years, I've met with countless players. So over my whole career, I've obviously interacted with countless players. But in the last 6 years that we've been doing Casino Quest, it's become a much more formative thing. And as we have taught people, and as we have sort of laid out these fundamentals, there are so many people that have realized success on tables. And you can go to our reviews. We have countless emails. We've had all sorts of naysayers who interact with us on a regular basis and talk about the math and talk about, you know, what the odds are. But there's a certain reality, there's a fundamental reality that plays out on every single game. And once you know that, and then you attach that to what it is that you can risk, what it is that you can spend, what it is that you're trying to accomplish, all these things, because it's personal. It's not the same for everyone else. You can realize success. So we've had these Bridge Workshops. All of this has culminated in our Bridge Workshops. And recently we took out a group. So we had the Bridge Workshop here, and then afterwards we went to a table to play. And here's the most interesting thing that happened. I was there with somebody, and we were playing a dice with David. And at the same time, we had this group with us that was part of the workshop. The person that I was with was not all that excited to play and invest in this shooter. And by the way, really nice guy, great guy, all that stuff. And you know, that's the thing. You walk up to a game and you watch. Most people will walk up to a game, especially those of us that have, you know, played a lot of dice, and we want to assess. Is it a cold table? Is it a choppy table? I know, I told you there's no such thing, but I still have the same superstitions. You know what I mean? So, you know, you watch, you walk up to the game, you watch, and you wait, and you see how it turns out. Now, happened to be this guy was kind of a random roller. He was, you know, overly excited to shoot the dice, and he looked a little bit, you know, that, you know, maybe he wasn't as invested, you know, in the roll. And it turns out he was the best shooter at the table. The minute we showed up at the game, this guy went off on a 40-minute hand. You know what I mean? 40-minute hand. Now, one of the guys wanted to wait and watch and got in really late in the hand. All the other players, they just Bridge Workshop. They all did one did GM spin, one did ultimate squeeze play, but they got in on it right from the go, and they won more money than they've ever won at a casino. Meanwhile, the other person that was waiting to kind of fill out the table, gauge the table hot and choppy and things like this, got in too late, still won a little bit of money, but wasn't able to really maximize the wins because. And then when they finally did get in, it was like 30 minutes in, and then there was all this sort of, you know. They were very hesitant, playing very conservatively, because at that point we're like, well, it's already 30 minutes. It can't go on forever, right? So let's just keep the bets low. Let's not do a lot with them. And it was really just too late. You follow? And everyone else won. In fact, there were two brothers that were there won more money than they've ever won before because they let go. You know, there was a moment too where I thought they were going to pull back a little bit. They were going to start playing a little conservatively because they're only in $500. But they're like, you know what? We just got done with the bridge. Let's just apply these principles. I've already broke even. I'm playing on the casino's money. Let's just go for it. And because they did go for it, they got to $1,000 on a couple bets, and they started hitting them. You know what I mean? And these are bets that started at $15, you see? So it's a very practical way to play and realize success. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Now remember, it's not the math that lies. It's the opportunity. It's the opportunity. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. David out. Bye.